Adding standards to your rubric allows us to run the necessary reports that we want to be able to show continual improvement of our students as they progress and become stronger in the standards. Rubrics for assignments should focus on only select standards, not every standard for the entire course, but only those standards that are relevant for this particular assignment. So I'm looking at this particular rubric, and I'm going to come down here to the area that's for my standards. And I'm going to add only the standards that this particular rubric addresses. So I'm going to click on the Edit button, which brings me to the Edit section for my standards list. And I'm going to click Add. And at this point, I'm going to select the standards that I'm going to be pulling from. Now, if you're lucky, you may already have personal standards selected, but in this case, we don't. So I'm going to have to look at all the standards. So I'm going to click on the word all here for which standard sets I need to look at. And this is going to include all the standard sets that LiveText has uploaded. And the Kentucky standards that we'll be using is the Kentucky Teacher Standards 08. Again, the Kentucky Teacher Standards 08 are the standards that we use for our initial and advanced teaching programs. And I know that the standard that I'm looking for is KTS 6.2. So I can go ahead and I can say I'm going to be looking at 6. And this brings up the Kentucky standards that are found under KTS 6. Now I want to point out that we have ILP and ALP. ILP is for our initial programs. So all of the initial certification programs would be using the ILP standards. For our advanced programs, such as our teacher leader program, we would definitely be looking at the ALP, which is the advanced standards. Okay, this particular one is going to be 6.2 ILP. Again, please note the difference. If you just say 6.2, we don't know what program that would be appropriate for. We really should be picking if it's going to be an ILP, initial program, or if it's an ALP for an advanced program. Once I have checked the standard that I want, I'll click on Add Standards, and that will add that standard to my rubric. Now I have 2 more that I need to add, so I will click on Add, and then I'll click on All, and I will select the standard set. And in this case, because it's a technology course, I will be looking at the ISTE standards, and I will be looking at the ISTE NETS, that's the National Educational Technology Standards for teachers, and I want to find 2, and I'm interested in 2A and 2C. Notice I can check more than one at a time, but I can only add standards per page. So if I had multiple pages of standards, I would have to check all of those that are on this particular page and click Add Standards, and then go back and add the standards from the consecutive pages. Okay, I now have all of the standards that I will be using for this particular rubric. So I can now click on Save and Finish. Okay, so when I come down here, I can see that all of my standards are now listed. There's 3 standards for this particular assessment. Now we have to align these standards to where they actually are assessed within the rubric. Again, these different items in the rubric will be aligned to particular standards, but they don't all have to be aligned to a standard. So I'm going to come up to my rubric here, and I'm going to click on Edit. So I have my rubric, and my standards actually fall under the topic of content. So I'm going to come down to Content, and again, notice it says here's the available standards, and there's my 3 standards, and I'm going to simply add those all to the content area of this particular assessment, because that's really where these standards are aligned. Okay. And I now have my standards aligned in the rubric. Again, notice not every single one of these has to have a standard associated with it. I can determine where those standards best fit. Once I have addressed, again, all of my standards in my rubric, even if it's only on one element, I can simply come up here, click Save and Finish. And that's all there is to entering and aligning a rubric to the standards for that particular assignment.